There it is. Calling to order the meeting of the EDC. It is now 3:05. Notice is hereby given that the above called meeting of the Economic Development Corporation Type V to consider and act upon any lawful subject which may come before said meeting, including, among others, the following items to be discussed and acted on. Notice is hereby given that there may be a quorum for the City of Balcones Heights City Council members. There will be no formal action taken by City Council members. Call to order and the recording of the quorum. Let us see, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we made it by the hair of our chinny chin chin. So we have a quorum and we have public comment. I see that one citizen has signed up for public comment. Is Mr. Lamar Gillian here? All right, please make your way to the podium and let us make sure the mic is on before the.
Yeah.
This? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of things that have gone through my mind recently about the mall. When we first went into partnership with the mall, I believe in that we had a requirement in the agreement to have an annual audit. And I'm wondering what the status of that is. I know you can't comment, but I'm just throw that out there. And if we're not having an annual audit, do we at least get unaudited financial statements on an annual basis? And number 3, what really puzzles me is how did the mall go to losses after city gave $5 million for 47% interest? Number 4 is, are leasehold expenses amortized or are they expensed in 1 year? That would account for having no income if they were just all expensed in 1 year. Because I know that the partnership put a lot of money into improvements. When does mall management expect profit from the mall? Do we have any idea? And what has the city/EDC done to ensure mall follows the agreement? If it's not being followed, I don't know if it's being followed or not. But anyway, some questions out there from members of the board, commission, and that's about all I have. Thank you for your time.
Is that the only one? Okay, very good. Okay, we will now move into presentations. No presentations, corporation business items, the consent agenda, approval of the meetings of the minutes of May 8th, 2025. Is that in the packet somewhere or?
No, sir, there is no meeting minutes that have been transcribed yet as up to this point.
And the monthly finance report,
Uh,
is that attached to this or? That's that one pager, Lloyd? is
Yes,
that-
sir, it is, and no, it is not.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if I may be recognized,
absolutely.
where is it at? I only got 2 pages here. I have it on, where is it at? I only have 2 pages here.
It did not make the agenda, but I can go make copies of it real fast if you wish.
Yes, please let us see it in order to approve it. Mr. Chairman, you have a councilman.
Yes, just jettison the consent agenda items until we come back with copies of the finance report. And since the minutes aren't prepared from the, or they're not here as either, let us just do when we come back to do the consent agenda item, we'll just do the monthly finance report. If it's okay with everyone else, we'll move on to item 2 while we get that straightened out. Updates, discussions, possible actions, Wonderland of the Americas, Sid Weiss and Denise Bush.
Chairman, there's some items that need to be covered in an executive session. Before we do that, I'd like to respond to Mr. Alexander's comment. Number 1, the partnership calls for a year-end statement to be presented at a certain time. It calls for an audited statement if so requested by the Class C member. In lieu of no request, we have prepared what's called a reviewed statement, which you have in front of you, which was prepared by a CPA. But there's no requirement for any audit unless requested by the EDC.
Thank you, Mr. You can proceed with your, with anything. Is all of it for closed session, or do you want to do anything in open session with respect to some of these other items? You've got some just
I would-
updates and
I would
whatnot.
prefer in closed sessions or in executive session. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Lloyd, are we ready to disseminate the finance report? Thank you. No worries. So all the members have the finance report. I'll entertain a motion to adopt it.
Mr. Chairman, if I may be recognized,
Absolutely.
just have a couple of questions before we move to a vote. On the legal services, that's why I was looking for it. We have 36,000. Have we expended 36,000 in legal fees up to date? Mr. Messick?
No, sir. So on your professional services, you can see what was budgeted,
Correct.
and there was something that we threw in there for professional services. The services are being provided for free, but we still budgeted for something. And you can see that in your approved budget column. But on your July actual numbers that have been spent, you can see that there's nothing there. So nothing has been spent. Same as last year. We budgeted for it, but nothing was spent. But if the lawyer does say, hey, I need to start charging them, we have the budget line open.
And so our debt
So-
service interest right now is 176,895 at present date, correct?
That's what was budgeted. And so far it's 143.18. And that's what it's going to finish at as we've made our last payment. No, I'm sorry. We made our last payment in August. So it doesn't, that reflects three of the four payments.
And I think it's
Okay.
also relative to the debt service principal at 222. We're at 159 present date.
Yes, sir. That represents three of the four payments.
Okay. And the training, that's just what's budgeted, nothing's been expended.
Correct?
Professional services, we've got 500, and you've got 21 here, 4%. Is that $21?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
All right. And travel, we've got 2,500 that's approved for the budget, and none of it has been used so far. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. And Floyd, just is the ending fund balance really a reflection of what we still owe Truist, basically? Would that be an accurate thing to?
Yes, sir. The initial fund balance that started back in when we purchased was based on the loan amount. Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to approve the finance report?
I so move, Mr. Chairman, if I may be recognized.
You may. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The consent
Aye.
agenda passes. So there's a discussion on the preliminary comprehensive strategic assessment status report, which basically I'm listed on here to introduce the folks who are doing it. They're both here in the audience. As those of you that are aware, we have members of council here as well. And the two individuals, Juan Saldana and Roger Steigers, are here. This, because of the sensitive nature, much of the report or most of the report will be done in closed session, but there's, you can get a gist of the report in open session. As a condition of producing the report, everyone entered into non-disclosure agreements, and so we want to be very sensitive about what sort of information gets shared, but we can give the gist of the report. And it's not a final, it's an interim report, and because they're still kind of working through things. So if Mr. Saldana and Mr. Steigers would approach, and I believe there's a slideshow for this, right? You don't have it? Okay. Is Roy around? Could you, if he emails it to you? Please? Okay.
Would you like me to address it from here or from somewhere else?
No, from there is fine. It may be a couple minutes before we get the slides.
Sure.
Roy needs to email them to Michelle, and then she's got to obviously bring it up. But if you have like a introduction or something that, some remarks, and just kind of level set us on where you folks are at.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. As we have discussed in our previous meeting, we were contracted to do an analysis of the purchase of the mall from the perspective of a public-private partnership. And so what we did is I have my analyst here who has worked with me on several transactions across the country. This is Mr. Roger Steger. He's going to basically walk us through some of the financial information. Again, we did sign an NDA with the Crossroad partners, managing partners, so there's very sensitive information. And we're doing our best to provide you with as much detail as possible, again, respecting the fact that that's part of the process. I also do want to share that we were very happy to know that we had zero issues with any of the documents. They were always there and ready to be shared. We emailed the accountants. They were also very responsive. So I'd like to definitely say thank you for that, Mr. Weiss, if he's still here. Yeah, good to see you. So it's great to have that level of desire to work through the information. I do think that at this point, what we're trying to do is level set across the board and make sure that going forward, this asset is a true public-private partnership that benefits both the public and the private partner. There are some things that are of concern, but I think that there is enough time. I believe one of the resolutions that I propose in our document is to have Mr. Weiss and his partners also answer whatever questions are necessary. So this is more of an amicable sort of collaborative effort. We want to make sure that everyone is well respected, and the information that we're going to share is just extremely neutral, factual, and based on what we have so far that was provided by Mr. Weiss. Once that's presentation, we go through the steps and the findings and the process. Then we would like to go into more of a private session because there's maybe some sensitivities to some of those numbers, and we want to give an opportunity for Mr. Weiss and his team to perhaps respond in a timely manner. We don't want to put him in a situation where he doesn't have the ample ability to be able to respond to some of the information that's there. So we also need some clarifying information to be able to truly get a whole picture, right? So this is a very complex deal. I'll say that to begin with. And there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of moving parts. So we want to make sure we're also acting very meticulously, and the decisions that are made, resolutions and henceforth, are made with a lot of deliberation. And there is a lot of time to look at all the specific items that are going to create value. At the end of the day, the three things that were discussed in our previous meeting was, number one, retaining the value of the investment from the EDC and the City of Bacones Heights. Number two, determining ways to perhaps increase the value of the asset, which would be wonderful. And of course, this is the city's one of the city's largest tracts of land. It is basically part of the growth story of Bacones Heights. So that being said, we took all those approaches into consideration, and we wanted to make sure that we provided you with a big picture overview of what we look at it from the perspective of a public-private partnership. And then we move into some of the decisions and actions that might be necessary to take place to retroactively perhaps put some guardrails around the transaction, to make sure that some of the documents that were requested earlier are basically there and are put together in such a way that we can actually create strategic strategic moves to make the land and the asset more valuable. So there has to be a plan in place, and I think it has to be done, collectively with your current private partner. Our role here is to present the information, keep digging, and go through the three phases of the idea, which is the financial overview and forensic overview of the finances, go into the operational audit, which would be a second phase, and then look at it from a structural and infrastructure perspective to determine where and how the mall may be, shifted or changed to create more value. Thank you so much. Oh, great. All right, so I guess we can start here. I guess the first thing is we're not in June, we're actually in August, so we'll make that change. Next slide, please. So first of all, I want to say, of course, it's prepared for the city of Balcones. It's based on documents, supported facts from 2021 to 2025. Currently, we're about 70% complete with the analysis, and the phase 2 is to address operational and physical audits, which we can talk about later. So the presentation, I want to say again, respects all NDA obligations. I'm under the obligations of the NDA. This is the first comprehensive forensic review since the city's 2021 investment. It is intended to balance public-private partnership. Currently, I believe in this sense, a P3, it's an underperforming P3. There's missing key governance elements and performance mechanisms that can be instituted by ordinance and resolutions. We want to make sure that the city's capital and credit is not materially exposed. This is one of the main reasons we're doing this. And the findings here will form the factual base for the upcoming executive session decisions, which will be later today. Next slide, please. The data sources are management financials and 2021 projections from Crossroads Ltd, lease agreements, city EDC records, physical and operational observations. We did that with another organization that is also working with us to put together the final report, and insurance and risk documentation. There's still several items that we have to review pending a full document compliance, and phase 1 is mostly analytical. Operational physical review follows in phase 2. So what we want to talk about is the NOI trajectory from 2021 to 2025. That's basically the lifeblood of the revenues for the asset that give us an indication of where we're headed. The valuation based on the management's own data, and with the interest added back. So we want to kind of level set between the valuation and the projections, and also what the mall may be able to fetch at market value. The gap between the forecast returns and the actual municipal receipts. So we only have received so far $291,745 for the NOI that has been returned to the city since the inception of this investment. And we want to talk a little bit about what these management fees were and why they're above the line. We want to talk a little bit about what that means, and how those fees have been paid despite the NOI shortfalls. We're going to talk about debt coverage and reserve position overview, mainly to talk and discuss the fact that there's a loan outstanding with Falcon Bank for the asset, and want to make sure that we are congruent with some of the requirements of the lending institutions to stay at a loan to value that is fair and equitable for that particular partner in the deal. Okay, so I am now going to call upon Roger Stager, and I would really appreciate if he could introduce himself, give you a little bit of his background and expertise, and then he'll walk us through the evaluation and P&L analysis. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Roger Stager. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. A little bit about my background. It's basically 50% corporate America and it's 50% academia. I teach at Hopkins, was faculty of the year at Georgetown. I teach at Texas Tech currently, University of Notre Dame, and there's more on my resume. For academia, I've written a leading textbook in the valuation of, sorry, my blood sugar was dropping coming in here, so she's being a little protective. I've written a leading textbook on the valuation of real estate financial products. Corporate America, have you ever heard of Exelon or Constellation Energy? I was their managing director for commodities. And for the Ultra Bank, I managed their corporate portfolio of real estate assets from Chicago, which is where Juan's from, all the way to Hawaii. And then I do P-Gain from there. I split my time between a farm, Ayla and I are on, in just outside of DC, and the Caribbean, where I own and run a golf course. Any questions of who I am, why I am, or why I deserve to be here, et cetera? Okay, One of the things to remember when we look at this, okay, and I'm going to try not to speculate due to the NDA. Okay. I'm going to try very hard not to speculate. So let's just talk about the facts. Let's talk about how I analyze the facts. And then, Roger E., as I affectionately call him, can tell me if I can speculate or not under the NDA. Right now, the outstanding debt is approximately $22 million for Falcon Bank. And there's actually 4 loans that I have. Johnny and I were on a phone call. I understand there's going to be a 5th loan potentially with another lender. I don't have the term sheet or anything for that. So right now, let's use the metric of $22 million for the mall. When I looked at the P&Ls, okay, and this was very much academic, again, not speculating, revenue less expense, add back interest on the P&L, I estimated, or actually I shouldn't say that, the P&L numbers demonstrated an annualized value for 2025 of $27 million. That produces a $5 million gap between the actual value and what's owed. Okay, that's the good news. We're going to get into, some of the future risks. I'm used to academia. I don't know how to advance the slides. Advance. Okay. Falcon Bank, we have $22 million. Current outstanding balance is $19,500,000. Here's what's important to note, okay? Am I allowed to move or do I have to stand here? All right, Professor Steger, you're chaining me. That's okay. Notice how we have years 0 through 5 at 5%. Okay, that's the good news. Okay, the not so good news is that year 6 begins next year, and you're going to be at a prime rate plus 100. Right now, prime is 7.5, which means you'll be roughly at 8.5. And the news from today, if you looked at PPI, it went up 3.3%, putting the Fed in a crunch between Trump and inflation. Some of the later slides that I show, okay, I did not assume interest rate cuts. And I did not make that assumption to be conservative. And I was worried coming in here today that, right now the market is currently predicting at least 2 turns of the crank, 50 basis points, if not 3. I'm not so sure about that with PPI up today, 3.3%. You do have tell me if I'm going way off the rails, but you do have Jay Powell's session ending in 2026. So I do think you might see some cuts in late 2026, but you might not. Okay, that is speculative. We have another loan, $750,000, maturity 1 February 2034. And what is interesting, you can go ahead and advance the slide. What is interesting about these 4 notes, again, roughly 21.2, I round up to 22 million because we have another loan coming on board that I understand. Okay. What is interesting about this is for the first 119 periods, we have a set payment, and then we have a fiscal cliff around 2031 when the rest is due. So it's a longer amortization. We have lower payments, but then a big payment in 2031. The good news is we know that today, so we can address it for tomorrow. But what I would state is we need to address it for tomorrow. If we wait till 2029, it's not going to be good. Okay, we have to prepare. Maybe we need to accrue. The cash today is not there to accrue. We need to consider accruing for the cliff or a refinance. The other issue on the refinance, before I even get into the other slides, think about a valuation of 27, think about an outstanding loan balance of 22, think about 60 to 65% in the capital markets. It's going to be very difficult going to traditional banks to refinance at favorable rates. And a prime plus 100, a prime plus anything for the city, in my opinion, is not acceptable. Okay, we should be at a prime minus. Okay, and we can get there with the current loan to value. However, that's going to be an equity infusion. That's a whole nother discussion. Advance. Let's just talk about a couple known hurdles that concern me as an analyst. Okay, again, I'm only speaking. 2025 insurance reset. That $27 million okay, was based on the P&Ls that I have. What are not in those P&Ls is the insurance reset. Insurance is going from 241 to 609,000 per year. Okay. NOI divided by cap rate. Okay. That is a $4.3 million reduction in value. So very simply, what is 27 minus 4? It's 23. Okay. So let's go to 22 and a half. You are almost at 1-to-1 debt to value. Okay. That's not good. You don't need me to stand up here and tell you that, but that's not good. 2026, Falcon Bank interest rate reset. That's what I was talking about earlier. You are going to have, or the mall, I should say. Okay, I'm used to speaking to students. The mall is going to have an additional $700,000 in interest expense beginning in 2026. Why is that a concern? Okay. If the project is not making distributions today, you've got an additional $368,000 coming out for insurance. You've got an additional $700,000 coming out in increased interest expense. Now we've only been hired to do this. Okay. I can give you suggestions on how to lower that. Okay. But that's not what we were here. So what I'm saying is it's not all doom and gloom, but they do need to be addressed. So you now have another $1 million of expense that you didn't have previously. And distributions weren't made previously. So that's a concern. Advance. Let's just look at reality. Okay. 2022, there was a $241,000 distribution. 2023, there was a $50,000 distribution. In 2022, the city had to pay $400,000 in interest to Truist. You had to pay $400,000 in interest for the total year, each of the years, and 2025 was only for half a year. So my point being is you are out $1.1 million out of the general funds. You know, and just as a private citizen, 1.1 million is a lot of meals that can go to individuals in need of meals. Advance. Okay, forecast versus unrealized. When you bought in, you were expecting to have 1.4 million in your pocket today. In reality, I'm rounding, you have 300 in your pocket today. You're out $1.1 million. I always view things when it comes to public-private partnerships in the amount of meals. How many meals can $1.1 million feed the individuals here? Advance. Okay. Big picture concerns. I'm actually going to hand that off to my colleague, Juan. I don't have, in academia, I would ask, do you have any questions? What do I?
Could we go back one slide just real quick? Yeah.
Oh, then you have to negative advance.
This is what the city was expecting, cash, not valuation, not the malls. The valuation of this is cash at 1.4, and they end at what they've had thus far is 291. So that's the, if you dollar for dollar, that's the, okay.
But while we're back, the other comment I would like to make is the word pittance would be an opinion, so I'm not going to use that word. 2023 was a very small distribution, okay, 50,000. You had nothing in 2024. You're projected, that's speculative. You've had nothing in 2025. I just want to point that out. There has not been anything. Now, I do have a little bit of a construction background. If you want me to get into my observations of the mall, I can do that. I can do that later. Juan is the construction expert.
I mean, I do have a question. If I may be recognized. Thank you, sir. In terms of the Falcon Bank on the 22 million, when you were discussing the rate of the default rate at the 200 BPS plus the payment of the 146,035.57, why is that relevant to our situation?
Let's negative advance.
For the general.
Okay, okay.
I know why it is, but.
One more forward. One more. There, stop. Okay. I did not, I'm going to mention, but I hadn't mentioned the default rate. Okay. The default rate is important. If Falcon Bank calls the project in default, you are no longer paying 8.5%. You are now paying 10.5%. And it is to the advantage of a lender to call you in default. And the reason being is if they are going to sell the note, they get a higher price for the note. My concern of what they would do, well, my concern is, am I allowed to say what my concerns? Okay. I will preface it as my opinion. In my opinion, you're probably already in default and haven't been called in default. Okay. So the reason it's so important to you is instead of paying, well, there you go. Instead of paying, I'm going to say it real succinctly. Great question. Instead of paying 5%, you're going to be paying more than double. You're going to be paying more than 10.5%. That's why it's so important to you. And that's in 2026. Should I tell you, in my opinion, what I think you should do?
Well, we probably, limit the speculation and just maybe at executive or something if you want to add something, but I think we get the message.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make sure for the general public why it's so important, because that caught my attention right away, is, why is that relevant to our situation? And you answered it very clearly. You doubled 10%, 10.5%,
More than doubled.
more than double. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And any other questions? Okay, so we can, you have more, you have another slide or?
Where was I? I think,
Oh, no, big picture.
okay, big picture. Partnership concerns. We have a valuation gap. So the mayor was very succinct. The valuation gap right now is we may have a one-to-one relationship between loan outstanding and value. That means there needs to, well, no speculation. Okay, that's a one-to-one value. NOI shortfall. City subsidizes from general fund. You're having to pay Truist. The whole goal, my understanding of the goal of the 5 million was that nothing would come out of pocket. You were borrowing the 5 million, you would get distributions for the project. It would cover at least on a one-to-one basis. That has not occurred. Deferred maintenance. Escalators, elevators, parking lots, MEP systems. You can defer maintenance for a little bit of time and from a financial forecasting sale. But you see, here's the issue. I don't believe that's speculation. You can only defer maintenance for so long before it catches up to you. A strategy of deferring maintenance is if there's a sale on the horizon. You guys can determine, what's happening there. Insurance gap coverage. What I talked about earlier was I talked about a change in the price of the insurance. Okay. What I did not talk about, which is what equally important, is that your insurance coverage has been reduced to outstanding loan balance from replacement cost. Okay. What does that mean? Okay. One could argue that you don't have appropriate insurance coverage. The bank can force the 25 million or 22 million, whatever is outstanding, but it means you don't have the gap insurance. So let me just give you an example that happens to young individuals. Go out and buy a nice car, you drive it for 2 years, everybody's okay, but the car is totaled. Okay? It was a $75,000 car. The value is now 25 million. You have to come up with the other 50 million, if 50 million, God, I'm thinking in terms, the other 50,000 to get a similar car. That's a big deal. That is a huge risk hanging over the project right now. Equity erosion, we talked about that. 5 million municipal loan, effectively worth 2 million, maybe 1, maybe 0. I can make credible arguments based on the information I have today that it is 1-to-1. P&Ls support the 27 million. What is not included in the P&Ls are the fiscal cliffs of the increase in interest, which wouldn't go into the NOI, but what would go into the NOI is the increase in insurance costs. That is directly into the NOI. That is a $4.3 million reduction.
Mr. Chairman, if I may be recognized, could you please explain, Roger, what is, Mr. Steiger, what is the NOI for the general public's?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for the question. Very simply, okay? NOI is simply revenue, widgets times sale cost equals revenue, minus expense. Number of widgets times the expense of widgets is your total expense. So revenue less expense. I'm not going to get into the technicals of P&L, and it's basically NOI. How you value projects in real estate are NOI divided by what's called a capitalization rate. For those of you that have degrees in corporate finance, when you're valuing a corporate entity, it's EBITDA times EBITDA times a multiplier. It is the exact, you'll appreciate this. It is the exact same thing in real estate, except we have to be different. Okay, so instead of multiplying by a whole number, we're dividing by a percentage. The percentage I used for that capitalization rate, which is market driven, I took directly out of the appraisal. Okay, so what I wanted was a third-party entity that I could point to and say, this is why we used 8.5%. I'm happy to do a capitalization rate forward projection. You know, if the city wants us to do a forward-looking pro forma, I'll need to do that. But right now, it's directly out of the appraisal. So it's revenue less expense. That gets you NOI divided by a capitalization rate, which is market driven. That gets you value.
Thank you, Mr. Steiger. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Advance. Okay, that was the public discussion, and now it's, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Steiger.
So we wanted to give just the members of this body and everyone present just time to ask a couple of questions. Again, I want to remind you that we are under an NDA and there's things that we cannot discuss fully. I know you have some very good questions around the financing, but we're here to entertain potentially, and I'll be able to tell you if I can answer that or not based on what I perceive to be the NDA rules that I signed. But I'm happy to take a few minutes maybe to digest some of this material. I know it's very dense. Part of it is a lot of numbers. And one thing about finance is that there's, projections, there's actuals. And so what we wanted to do is give you an actual picture of where we are, because transparency is your biggest weapon. Why? Because for both the public and the private partner, as they seek other partnerships or other ideas around the mall, everyone's going to have to go through this level of due diligence. They're going to go through it and they're going to go deeper and deeper, because you want your public partners and your private partners to know that you have tremendous transparency, just like this wonderful, what was her name again, sir? Lamar Gillian was asking amazing questions, and we also want obviously your residents and your constituents to know exactly what's going on, right? That's part of this whole discussion. When we look at the big picture, when you enter into a public-private partnership, it's incumbent upon the EDC to have internal controls as well as governance to make sure and ensure that those investments are well kept and there's fiduciary guardrails around it. It is my opinion that there's so much work to be done at that level, and it is going to benefit both the public and the private partner. So I want to say that very neutrally, that this is not about singling out someone that did something wrong. This is about the facts, the figures, where we are in this moment. If you have a very adept and wonderful developer or management team, I always bet on people that know how to do what they need to do, but we need to be at a place where you have internal controls, where you also have governance, and you have to have the resolutions from the city to enable the EDC to have those internal controls as well as the governance that should be there. If you're almost a 47% owner of this mall, with the governance controls that I've seen here, it's not adequate, not at all, not even by a long shot. So my suggestion here would be in closed session, in the executive session, is to talk about some of those immediate decisions to help cure perhaps some of the issues that are present, and also create a real strategy around how do you increase the value so we're not into a one-to-one scenario, we're not into a scenario where we may be called on default. We are trying to avoid, from our perspective, any kinds of detrimental financial situations, not only to, at the deal side, but ongoing, right? This is not about what happened in 2021. It's what's happening now and what could happen in the future. We have to avoid as much of that as possible. And the only way to do that is to make sure that you have the internal controls and the governance that wasn't done back. This should have been done in 2021. This level of due diligence should have been done back then. That is an opinion. And I believe that the city manager and everyone else would say, yes, we probably should go retrospectively, put those controls in there and actually name this a real public-private partnership that will also, protects both the private and the public partner, quite frankly. And that's one of the reasons that people enter into P3s is so it's a symbiotic relationship and everybody is winning, right? Not just one or two of the partners, that both have to win. So I'm just here to entertain any questions you might have, and I can just keep going with the presentation. Let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board, or, we'll have an opportunity in closed session to make inquiries.
Excellent. So can you please proceed with the presentation? So again, with the governance and compliance gaps, spoiler alert, I kind of talked a little bit about that. So we need an actual RDA, one that holds water across years. This is not an asset I think was intended to be, a short-term buy. This is, as I mentioned, a large part of the landmass of Balcones Heights. I believe that this is probably a long-term asset or long-term hold for the municipality. So it makes sense for you to have a really well-established RDA. I want to say the word inadequate reporting, not that there was wrong reporting, because I looked at these files. There's a lot of information there. So again, I want to say that perhaps the internal controls of the EDC were not adequate for what was being shared, and how to interpret that data was also something that needed to happen. I'm not pointing any fingers. We're talking about the future. Certain agreements were executed without formal municipal sign-off. Now, this is one of the things that was, to me, concerning. When your private partner goes into any agreement, especially if you have a major partner, even if it's a Class C limited partner, everyone should be able to sign off on it, right? Giving away outlots or other things that are sort of that I've researched that we have to just verify. There seems to be a lot of unilateral decisions made on what happens on the mall. That cannot happen anymore. What I suggest is that the EDC takes a little bit more control over those kinds of decisions, because they're long-term material decisions. And we will talk about some of those in the executive session. I have not seen a documented long-term NOI growth strategy. As Mr. Roger Steger stated, we did create a base pro forma based on the information we gathered from the private partner. And we can create some projections based on the actuals. The issue is that I haven't seen it yet. So we can't benchmark what the NOI growth strategy could look like across different types of scenarios, which is one of the reasons why we want to go through the 3 steps to be able to dream big and, obviously make some of that capital come back, because capital preservation is important. And quite frankly, I'd like to see some capital growth for Balcones Heights with this asset. There's an opportunity to align governance with stabilization objectives. That is really the gist of what the value of this report is about. It's about how do you, knowing the finances, understanding what all the risks are, how do you create governance and stabilization objectives to make sure that this asset is maintained and free of default in the future. Next slide, please. So again, the inadequate reporting, we'll talk a little bit about that. More importantly, some compliance gaps that need to be discussed. There's some covenant breaches and reserve drawdowns that I cannot discuss at this moment. And I actually want to give an opportunity for the private partner to answer any of those kinds of questions, because that's what's extremely fair here. And so we want to have more structured municipal and EDC oversight, internal controls going forward. Next slide, please. So again, this goes back to public impact and the decision areas that we have to make. Just very high level, some decision areas. For illustration only, I cannot talk about it directly. There has to be some level of manager cure period with some of the issues that are going on, maybe a governance restructure. Lender good standing confirmation, I want to talk a little bit about why that's important. And an asset operational and physical due diligence is definitely necessary. If that's already done, we need to basically analyze that. If we have to look at it from this point forward, is something that I believe is a worthy investment, because this is, again, not just about the 5 million. It's about the ongoing investments that are required to maintain this mall. It's also about the insurance and risk management that you're constantly being asked to, step up to sign on different loans. I want to remove any level of forced consent around what needs to happen next, and we have to do it at this time. There has to be a very clear strategy on what this asset is going to mean for the city of Balcones Heights, and how do we preserve the capital that was already invested, and how do you create the opportunities in a true P3 structure that allows everyone to walk away happy. That's the goal. So we want to make sure that we do that methodically. We don't want to jump around and make any speculations. I got one of the best, foremost experts on finance to do that. There's other folks that are coming to the table that are going to do a deeper dive as we move forward. And I think this will definitely serve not only the private partner, but also the investors on the private side to look at this very holistically. And then together, we can come up with a plan that's going to be, a lot more actionable and fruitious for the Balcones Heights. And as the EDC, you're maintaining your governance leadership, and also the purview of what your internal controls and governance should be for this type of a transaction. So the path forward, we're going to talk about the phase one report, maybe looking into the phase two roadmap. I want to invite the council members to join the executive session if they want to be there. In the executive session, we'll have more exhibits and documents to reinforce some of the decisions. And we want to review some of the negotiation tactics and resolutions to put you into a better standing across the board, from all the different positions that you need to advance towards to be in a better position overall for the ownership of the mall as a almost a 40% owner of this asset. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saldana. I think the next item is actually executive session. Right? So I'll ask all folks, council members, of course, can stay behind. And I believe, Sid, you got something to present in executive. So we'll let you lead us. The time? I'm sorry. Yes, give me just a second. We're now going to go into executive session and pursuant to section 551.072, deliberations regarding real property of the Texas Government Code regarding Wonderland of the Americas. A governmental body may conduct a closed meeting to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, value of real property. It is now 3:52. Very good. It's now 6:19 p.m. and we are back in session. We can discuss possible action on items discussed in executive session now.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move for a motion.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the EDC request to the Balcones Heights City Council to review a resolution to address the future management of WOTA, Wonderland of the Americas.
There's a second.
I'll second.
We'll take a vote. Was there discussion or do we not do that?
If you want, you can call for discussion.
Call for discussion or?
Everybody wants to go home.
Mr. Arnett?
Aye.
Mr. Jarrett?
Aye.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay.
So 4-0.
4-0 vote.
No executive director updates. Any future agenda items, suggestions?
Yeah, that's right. You need to vote on the loan. Good call, Mr. Arnett. You have the language regarding it's item number under number 2. You want to review it and just read it. Review and discussion and vote on letter of credit, and then the other one's right below it, item number 3.
Do we have a motion to vote on the review of the letter of credit for the
Yeah.
letter of credit for the line of credit required to cover the interim costs until about 51% of the reconciliation's proceeds are received from increased insurance premiums to include a loan agreement amendment and partnership amendment. Is there
I'll motion to vote.
is there a second?
Second.
And
Okay, let's, any discussion or we'll go straight to the voting?
I think we need more information because we don't have details on the interest rate, cost of loan, and we need further information.
Okay, so,
call the vote.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
are we voting to,
Disapprove.
are you good? Then we'll vote to disapprove until we receive such information as called for by Mr. Jacob. Mr. Jacob, how do you vote?
I vote to disapprove.
Mr. Rodriguez,
I vote to disapprove as well.
Mr. Arnett,
Yeah, disapprove.
and I too vote to disapprove.
Now you vote to
Um,
disapprove or approve the engage.
Do we have a,
mortgage
yeah,
company.
do we have a motion to vote for disapproval of engaging a mortgage company to work on November 2026 interest increases? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Very good. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. Mr. Arnett, how do you vote on disapproval?
Disapprove.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Disapprove.
Mr. Jacob,
Disapprove.
and I too vote disapprove. Any announcements from board members or staff? Okay.
At Float, we added the first robotic massage device in San Antonio.
Oh,
Whoa.
Great.
AI-powered robotic massage available at Float.
Congratulations.
Where's I?
Y'all hit me up if you want to go try it. It's like
I could use it.
half a mile that way. It's really cool.
It's right there.
It's actually very cool. Y'all should come try it.
But just for the record, this information we have here is non-disclosure. It is completely confidential that we received from P3 Strategies, correct? Okay, just good.
Correct, for our eyes only. Very good. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
Oh. Okay. We can do it before vote. What time is it?
And the time is 6:24.